I'm ready.
Looks like we went right in.
All right. We are here.
Boom.
We rolled right in. Yeah, I'm hoping it was seamless. So I think
It
we're
put
going
me,
to see.
but I do see it isn't showing us yet on my phone, but who knows? We'll see.
Oh, okay. You're looking at it on the phone. That's funny. So what are you drinking there? Is that a little Red Bull or something?
Yeah, Red Bull. Product placement technically because I kind of do some work with them.
Oh, is that so? I wouldn't know anything about product placement. Oh, oops! I just happen to have this box of Element in front of me.
You know, when Sarah brought up Element on her Instagram, I had to ask her. She said it was low in sugar. I was like, well, what are they using to make it sweet?
Yeah.
Turns out it's stevia, which is a good thing.
Good evening.
Yes.
What's up, Bob?
Hello. What's up, buddy?
So we screwed up again. It's 2 hours difference.
Yeah.
It's 6 o'clock here now, not 7.
Yeah, I know. If you go back in the text, Jared backed me up on this. I think I pretty clearly said 6 o'clock your time. Or at least I said we're 2 hours.
Correct.
It's okay. We made it. Great to have you here, Chris. How's your bike treating you? Chris bought a pole because he's a very tall human being.
Give me just a second, gents. I'll be right back.
All right. So, yeah, I'm glad you finally made it. The time, yeah, I got to be better about that because I forgot it was 2 hours, but the first time I thought I told you this time. So,
Yeah.
welcome, Rob.
Sorry.
Oh no, we're good. So, Rob, did you have a chance to watch the video?
No, I did not.
I love it. I knew the answer. Okay, I'm a good attorney, and I knew the answer, but I wanted to ask it anyways because part of what we're doing is discussing the video. You saw one portion of the video, though, right?
I think I did see one portion.
Yeah, you weren't too happy about it.
What portion was that?
We're not going to go into it because Rob gets very triggered. You can take a guess.
I don't get triggered. I just don't see the sense of using someone else's vernacular.
I think part of it is a YouTube thing, and Jared will probably agree with me. It generates some emotion. And
okay, are we talking about row and anti-row?
Exactly what we're talking about.
Okay, yeah. Where's that from?
I don't want to say.
It's from a dude who's been in the game a long time, and I think he has a lot of really good things to say, and that is one of them. He's a very athletic dude. He has an athletic background, and I think a lot of things that he says are good. He did a video with somebody, and he didn't have great things to say about what we teach, and I just let it roll off my back. Rob took some umbrage with it.
Come on, dude. You are projecting. You were as frustrated as me. Don't put it all on me.
I'm not going to put it all on you. I was frustrated at first, but I let it roll off my back because we talked about it.
I'm the same. I mean,
your frozen face was great.
My what?
You had a froze for a second. Your face froze. It was like this.
Yeah. So I rewatched our last live that we did, and my feed is just terrible. So if it's equally as bad now, I got to start trying to turn things off in my house because my Wi-Fi is terrible.
Yeah. If you can tell your wife,
not much better, dude.
If you can tell your wife to start turning things off, that would be great.
I actually do that before I get on these lives. I pause everybody's devices so they can't strangle me out.
Oh, that's pretty funny. That's
pretty
smart.
I have an app for it. I just shut them all down.
So it doesn't matter, Rob. I know you're super busy, so I know that you haven't seen it, but you've lived it and you helped create the curriculum that was in it. So, Jared, what did you think of that video?
So, to be honest, I wish that video would have been around sooner because, as you know, I've told you these stories before. I've gotten in a lot of trouble from bad body position. I've made some bad conclusions from poor body position. For example, I had that tendency to get scared, slack my arms out like you discussed in the video, and overload the rear suspension, which in a couple of scenarios led to me going over the bars because I would like overload the rear and put nothing up front. And then I hit these lippy jumps and flip over.
Lippy.
And then not only that, like I said, it led to me drawing poor conclusions. I started manipulating suspension setup, trying to blame the shock rather than my poor body position, which has since been fixed, but I wish I would have known it sooner.
I just had a conversation with somebody who was a very high level downhill racer. And we were talking about, he came to my house and he rode some of my bikes around, and he was saying how he thought my setup was really weird. And he made the comment about when he goes into a bike park, he adds rebound to his suspension. And I said to him, you know why you do that? And he's like, why? I said, because you're apprehensive and you get in the back seat. You don't need to change your suspension. If it works and you ride like you should ride, it's going to work the same in the park. Physics don't change in the park. You just start moving your body position because of apprehension, fear, whatever you want to call it. But
yeah. And I think a lot of it was like subconscious for me. Like I didn't even realize I was doing it.
It's the fear of the dog.
We have to pause. Breaking news coming in, ladies and gentlemen. Wagner Creative coming in with a $9.99 super sticker.
Hey now.
Is that Brock?
That is Brock Wagner. If anybody doesn't know, that is Brock Wagner. Brock Wagner, pretty important dude. Brock Wagner is the guy that created the magic that you just watched. I simply stand in front of the camera and move my hands around like Ricky Bobby. Brock makes it look good. I have no original thought. Brock puts all that in post. I'm not really talking. I'm just standing there in front. So thank you, Brock. Yeah. And Nicole's there to talk about a better half scenario. Nicole Carlton Wagner in the house. She's definitely the better half. And she is running for judge in Carthage, Missouri, I believe. And we had to tell Brock the other day, Sarah's been waiting to see Brock to say, hey, Brock, we think you're a liability in that race, in her race for judge. So you might need to get out of it. So it's pretty funny. So thank you, Brock. I appreciate that. This is a good one because we've talked about this, Rob. We've talked about it for a long time. And it's a very simple thing, as are most things on the bike. But this particular scenario, you're up against something that's pretty powerful, and that's the human brain. And that's a tough thing. And I think too little people have enough appreciation for that. Don't fight this. Don't try to fight it. Try
little people and some big people.
Too few.
All different sizes.
Too few. Touche. Yeah, it's a difficult thing. Your brain is telling you to get back. So what I would try to tell people is, if that's the situation that you find yourself in, put yourself in a different situation.
Right.
Try to find somewhere where you're not that scared and work the proper body position.
Yeah. So what I was talking about, I was working with a client, and I was telling him, when I'm coming back from potentially a crash with an injury, and I have that fear and apprehension, I'll look for something that's a little lower level on a trail that I know, so that I can give myself some little victories, try to build some confidence.
Yeah. And that's a really difficult thing, I think, for some people to do. It's hard for them to, I guess, conceptualize that and how that can work. But then I think too many people get caught up in situations where maybe they've misjudged the level of that particular section, or, as is the case here, you try to go out and do that, dude, you run into 5, 10, 15, 20 people. And it's really hard to go through that process that you're trying to go through when there are people looking at you.
Yeah.
And I totally get it. I understand it. And I think that's where you need to try to do your best to work through that, because all it's going to do is help you in the long run. Totally. When you watch some of Rob's older posts where he uses gimbals, you can see how far forward he is over the bars going down national. That's a pretty good pickup on that. What do you want to say about that?
When I'm comfortable and I'm confident, that's how I ride. And this is another thing I touched on with Ted, the client I was working with, is when you catch a double upright and you land on the backside of something, and you're front heavy, and you time the landing front wheel and back wheel in the right place, you get a little boost of energy, the bike actually accelerates when you land, especially if you pump that landing real hard. And so if you're not prepared for that, that can put you in the back seat as the bike wants to shoot out from under you. And then as you're, whatever the next obstacle you're approaching, you can then be out of place. Your mass can be in the wrong place. And so when I'm riding comfortably and aggressively, I'm very forward, anticipating that little boost when my timing is right.
Yeah. So
unfortunately, if the timing's wrong, you've put yourself in a compromised position the other way.
Yeah.
You're not prepared for a bad outcome, and that's how I got hurt.
Rob, what's the byproduct of good technique?
Speed.
So that's it right there. Speed is a byproduct of good technique. And you're alluding to one situation. That situation occurs in almost every element of riding the bike. Turning is a prime example. We see a lot of people who start using proper turning technique, and the byproduct of that is they create velocity, which catches them by surprise. They then get in the back seat. I recently worked with a few people, and they wanted to work on pumping. So I had a private client. We went out. He was in front of me, and he was doing everything he could to try to pump the trail. Now, his execution was far from where it needed to be, but I appreciated he was making an attempt. And I gave him a simple cue because he was going back. He was shooting his hips back. So in his mind, he was thinking pumping's forward, back, forward, back. I told him it's up, down, up, down. And he applied the up, down, and he created way more velocity than he was expecting and got backwards when I showed him the video. And so that's a great point to touch on, is the body position piece is critical, and it's a very dynamic and very fluid thing. And, we talk about being centered, and I even alluded to this in the video, Rob, you'll see it. I said, don't take me so literally. You can stop that video multiple times and see my hips are literally behind the center of the bike. There are many times where my hips are behind the center of the bike.
Well,
I'm not doing that on purpose.
We've talked a lot of times about you need to be in the position that's correct for what's coming. You need to be ahead of the circumstances, and that's going to be the best place to be, whether it's forward, whether it's back. If like we talk about with the drops, if the next thing to happen is an impact, you need to be prepared for that impact.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And that's why, as William says here, the forearms in line with the forks. Part of why we try to drill that mechanism in is to help you get in that position. And the more time we spend preaching this, I think the more carryover I see. And what I've started to relate this to is jumping. So a lot of times when we're jumping and we get people who start to create energy and accept the energy off the takeoff, they get nervous and their elbows come in tight. And when their elbows come in tight, they don't have the leverage. So if the bike starts to list a little bit for any reason, it's hard for them to control. Instantly, when I get those people to put their elbows out, it remedies that.
William's point is great, because that's the thing, that's the objective. And so when we tell people to position themselves in that way forward, the reason we're telling them to is because the objective is to increase the suspension that you have utilizing your arms. And when they can picture that, it kind of brings a little bit more sense. It's not just an opinion about position. That's the reason why it's important that you're there, because otherwise you can't have your forearms in line with the fork.
You know what else I always thought was pretty interesting that y'all brought up when I was with y'all in Bentonville was the fact that in conjunction with the concept of using your arms as in combination with the suspension and keeping in that position, also how that relates to your brake lever angle. I still think my brake lever angle is probably not right to get in that position, and I probably need to play with them and tinker with them. That was a really good point, and that's something that maybe you guys should mention real quick.
What I'll tell you is, if you look at my bike, it's a compromise between what's comfortable when I'm in a seated pedaling position and what's comfortable when I'm standing in an attack position.
Right.
It's not ideal for probably either. But I'm going through through these different motions while I'm riding, and so the point is to make it, unless you could have them move, you've got to get them in a place where you feel like it's optimal for every situation, or it's nominal for every situation. It's not going to be optimal.
Right.
Which carries over. Yeah, which carries over. Suspension's a prime example. Like, that's one where you'll never have it great for everything. And if you set it up great for one particular thing, you're lacking everywhere else.
I was just working on somebody's bike, and he's never ridden, or he's mainly ridden Fox, and now he's got a RockShox fork. And he was saying how he usually leaves when he rides the bike, he sets the pressure so that the sag ring is about an inch from the crown. And I said, not on a RockShox, you know. I said, that thing should be up against the crown. And if it's not, you need to let some pressure out, because you're wasting an inch of travel. And I said, you should be bottoming it, and you likely won't even know.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think the fix is for being brake happy?
He's giving us a hint.
Well, yeah. If you're looking ahead, you're not going to be getting surprised, which is typically the thing that's causing you to go to the brakes. It's funny how the simple act of looking up and giving your brain time to process what's coming is like turning down the volume on your speed. Suddenly you go from, man, I'm going so fast, to, wow, I'm going really slow. Yeah. And all it takes is just looking ahead. All you got to do is look ahead.
What do you think, Jared?
To be honest, just repetition. I'm the type of person that has to do things maybe hundreds of times before I can lay off the brakes a little bit. It is what it is. It really just depends on what kind of rider you are. Some people are just way too analytical and doubtful, and that's how I am sometimes.
Well, and I think that's very commonly what happens. I'll shape the perspective a little bit differently and say, look at it in terms of a dimmer switch versus a light switch. You call it being brake happy. You could, in theory, in my opinion, have the same amount of brake applications, but if they're like a dimmer switch versus a light switch, they won't, better. Exactly, they won't impact you so much. So that's just my take on it. Now, Rob, the handlebar roll, does it impact body position? Without a doubt it does.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And where do you recommend the roll be set? That's a great question.
Well, that's a personal choice. Like we talked about before, when I'm setting up a new bike, where I think it should be when I'm sitting on it in the garage is never where it ends up being. I'll take off to ride, and then instantly I'll stop and roll at a degree, and then I'll ride some more and I'll roll at another degree, and then I'll get in a circumstance on the trail and realize I need it farther forward. It's usually a 5-step process to get it all the way up. And then I look at the bike and it looks completely goofy.
Yeah, I've noticed y'all's bars are rolled more forward than normal.
Rob's are way further forward than
it looks completely goofball, but it really works well for me. And when it's not there, it doesn't feel comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, the way it looks when you're not on it really doesn't matter, because when it's at sag, it's in a completely different spot, So that makes sense that you'd have to. The only way to know is to get on the bike, ride it, and make sure it's dialed.
Yeah, I think you have to find a comfort level, and that's important. As a generality, we try to get most people to roll them forward because we think generally most people are too far back. They're rolled too far down. But how far you roll them is definitely going to be up to you.
Well, and it's like so many other things. If you tried, like with suspension settings, if you have the position where you normally ride and that's where you're comfortable, if you try rolling them a little and riding, you might come to a section of trail where you struggle and suddenly the outcome is better. And you're not gonna come to that realization until you try things.
Yeah,
right.
This is the reason Rich tells a story at the clinics about when we were younger, and we would go to the motocross track and Rich would want to go ride practice, and I would make him ride the track in one gear, starting in first gear, then second gear, then third gear. And in first gear, there's not too many places where that's optimal. But when you get into fourth gear and you're forced to carry speed through turns so you don't stall the bike, suddenly you find places where fourth gear is actually better than second because you don't have the downshift and the upshift coming in and going out.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you weren't forced to do it, you would never discover the benefits of it. And that applies to so many other things on the bike.
Well, that's a great segue into the comment that we have up from Frederick, and this is a great one. Speed's an interesting factor. I see lots of pros going exceptionally slow and still riding fast, if that makes sense. It makes sense. And what I would say is
perfect with corners.
Yeah.
If you come in out of control, you're not going to have a good exit. And so checking your speed going in to set up a really good exit has tremendous benefit after the turn.
Fast is fast, Frederick. Fast is fast. That's not open to interpretation. Trying to look like you're going fast is generally wasting energy. So a lot of people do that, especially younger riders I've seen. They try to look like they're going fast, and that's wasted thought and it's wasted energy. Don't try to look like you're going fast. Apply techniques so proficiently that people just don't really understand what happens.
They discount you because they're like, oh, that guy's not going fast.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like that one. Oh, and I love this one. Brian Bailey. Man, my feet are getting launched off the pedals when hitting jumps. I know. Yeah. First tip, get clips.
Tighten the spring tension of your flipping pedals.
Yeah. I'm assuming he's running the old flatty pedals. That's what I like about flat pedals in this scenario is the feedback's there. I don't have to say anything because the pedals are telling you. If your feet are getting launched off the pedals, you're either not keeping your heels down and driving your feet through the takeoff, or you're losing tension in the chain somewhere in your legs, in your midline, and the bike is pushing you off. You're creating energy on the takeoff of a jump. You need to then manage that energy. It's going to come up into you, and you need to let it come up into you. So the more energy you create on the face, the more the bike's going to want to come up into you. Therefore, the pedals will stay against your feet. Let that happen.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of pedals, I had an interesting scenario come up today for the first time in my riding career.
Ooh.
I've worn out my cleats. My pedals are as tight as they can possibly be, and my feet are flying out of the pedals.
I can't believe that. Like, you don't, dude. I have 5 sets of brand new pedals hanging on my brand new cleats hanging on my workbench.
No, I have tons of them.
Wow.
I need to go out and replace them now.
I'm shocked.
This set of cleats has been so good, and periodically I have to tighten up the pedals, and I've gotten to the point where there is no more tightening of the pedals. I need new
What
cleats.
pedals are y'all running? I'm just curious. I just recently switched to. I'm starting to get used to clipless. I've been running flats all my life.
I'll tell you, and if you don't want them to break off, what you want to run is monos. The inventor of the SPD pedal, I run XTs because they're quite affordable, or at least they had been.
Which ones are breaking off?
Okay, hang on.
I don't want to say. That's
easy.
Well, I'm scared because
Jared.
I've never broken a pedal shaft.
I've got Crank Brothers right now. Should I be scared?
No. Okay. Let me tell you what he's alluding to, and the statement, which ones are breaking off? No, one broke. I run HTs, so HT components. I run T1s.
Okay.
I've been running them since 2016. I currently have 8 pair of them, and some of them I've had for 3 years. They're great pedals. Well, yesterday I happened to be ripping down one of the fastest sections in Bentonville, and I landed off this high-speed jump, and something violent happened. I wasn't really quite sure what it was. I was trying to figure it out, but my left foot jammed down into the ground harder than it ever has after this violent noise.
Sure.
The spindle sheared. So yes, it was very violent. Thankfully, nothing bad happened, and I think they're going to send me some new pedals. So they don't break. Nobody I showed it to has ever seen it. So
yeah, I mean,
I like HT.
Every
can't go wrong.
fails at some point.
True. Now with this, Andrew, I'm going to tell you right now, they've been tight-lipped about it, and so I'm still in information gathering mode. about RockShox flight attendant, so I'm not in a position to speak anything on it, and I don't think Rob is.
I have a friend who's been running it for quite a while. I've heard
that's right.
I've heard good things, and I'd love to have it, but I'm fearful that, like everything else I'd like to have, it's not available.
Here we go.
It's not available.
Here we go.
How does it, since you know some stuff about it, Rob, is it basically like Live Link, except it takes in inputs from the rider? That's what I gathered from the marketing, but I couldn't pick up much.
Yeah, I don't know that much about it, but what it seems to me is like it seems almost like there's some AI going on, like a learning algorithm.
Yeah, like Live Link from Fox. I think it kind of has.
I didn't feel
Live Valve. That's what
I've written Live Valve, and I didn't think that it was adaptive.
I don't think Live Valve is.
I always turned it off.
It's interpretive. I don't think it's adaptive, if that makes any sense. So we're gonna wait on that. How about this one? How about the mullet craze, Rob? What do you think? Is it a craze, and what do you feel about mullet bikes?
That was a little choppy. I didn't get it.
The mullet craze, business in front, party in the rear. What's your take? Is it a craze? Is it here to stay? What are your feelings, Rob?
I think it has legitimate benefits. I think it's 29, we can all agree, rolls better. So when you're talking about traveling over rugged terrain, the bigger wheel rolls better, but a smaller wheel will start and stop easier. So on a technical climb, for instance, or coming out of exiting a corner, if you've got to slow down and then speed up again, you will accelerate quicker with a 27.5 wheel. The front wheel is just rolling, so it doesn't know the difference. But to get a 29-inch wheel up to speed is a little bit more work.
Yeah.
Jared. So, and because it's smaller, pivoting around the back wheel. So in maneuverable situations, I think you get the maneuverability benefits of a 27.5 while you've got a better rolling component on the front end.
So from a different perspective, in my opinion, what I'm observing with mullet is I've noticed that all the bikes that are becoming mullet were once dedicated 27.5 bikes. And
I would
almost
say
seems
that,
like the industry is using it as an entry drug to get people off of 27.5s. I wouldn't be surprised if they eventually become dedicated 29 bikes.
Here's the problem is if you put a small wheel on an optimized 29-inch bike, you're going to have pedal striking problems.
Mm-hmm.
So it only makes sense to raise a small bike. 27.5, the bottom bracket's going to be a little higher. So when you put a 29 on the front, you're not risking that situation like you would be if you put a 27.5 on the back of a 29.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah. Well, how about this one? And I forgot to use my
to click it in.
Post in the comment to click it in, but I'll just tell air versus coil, and not just in a rear shock, but also in a fork. So it was asked specifically about forks as well. And I can tell you, I ran an MRP coil ribbon in 19 for some BME stuff, and I liked that fork a lot. What do you think?
I would say all things being equal, a coil is going to provide better performance because you don't have the drag of everything involved in the air cylinder.
Right.
It's got bushings, it's got seals, all that drag gets eliminated. The problem I have with it, and I'll tell you, I prefer air. The problem I have with it is it's very difficult. It takes a lot of time to get the perfect spring rate. And if anything changes with you, if you decide to wear a pack or not wear a pack, if you eat a lot of bagels like Rich does and you pick up a little extra fluff, all those things have an impact.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be stark. It can be subtle, but the performance will be affected. And in my experience, there's nothing worse than a coil that's not right.
Yeah, that's why I've never messed with coils for the same reason. I believe that I totally agree with what you're saying, Rob. I think they would be optimum in a perfect world, but I don't have the money or the time to constantly switch out springs to try to find the perfect one.
Yeah, if I had a mechanic who would do the legwork for me, and I had the time to go out and test and figure out where it works the best, I would certainly run it. But I had a coil that I ran on my propane, And I'm telling you, it's exactly 1 pound heavier. I could feel that pound. When I put an air on it, it was just much better for me.
All right. So Rob, I'm going to add this one up, and I think you're going to like this one because we've been talking about this. It's position different on an e-bike. Just ordered one. Good for you, Tony. Different. Body position.
I don't think so.
Why?
I mean, it's a bike. I mean, it's a little heavier, but most of that weight's down low where you want it, so the bike's going to handle well. But your body position is equally as critical. I mean, your mass is still the biggest component, even though the bike's a little bit heavier. And so, yeah, it's important to be in the right place for the best outcome.
Yeah, I agree. You could probably go into some nuance about it, and we're not going to do that now. We're going to be saving that for the Ride Series e-bike curriculum. Whoa. But yeah, there are things about e-bikes that are a little bit different, but one of the biggest and best, in my opinion, is it's a heavier bike and that weight is down low. You have a lower center of gravity. When you use that to your advantage, whoo.
I think the SL optimizes that better than anything I've ridden because it's not so heavy that it's overworking the tires and the brakes. One of the things I've been challenged with on some other e-bikes I've ridden is, at 55 pounds, when you're coming down steep, loose stuff with 2.5 tires and, even 200 rotors, you're asking a lot to try to slow that thing down.
Right.
I think.
Okay, Rob, next question is coming up for you right now. Oh, hang on. Ready?
Oh, that's so great. Yeah, I watched the Pink Bike video there. Vital. My bad. Vital.
Yeah, let's very careful here.
I am so sorry. It wasn't Pink Bike. It was Vital. They did the Vital enduro field test, and they did not have great things to say about the Pivot Firebird. Now, up front, let me say I don't have one, but I rode the last one extensively, and I've ridden every other bike they've made that went to the vertical shock configuration. I've pedaled around a Firebird, and I was shocked at how efficient it felt on the pedals. And I am under the impression I will be getting one soon. And if I get that bike and am not completely thrilled with it, I'll eat my shoe.
So
I would love to watch that.
Yes,
I would too. A little ketchup and mustard.
Yeah.
Go a little deeper, and I'm only gonna go as deep as you want to go. But we had a long 2-hour discussion last night, and I mean, you can numb it as much as you want, but dude, there's only 51 people here.
This is what I'll say. Okay, that bike was developed racing EWS. It was developed by guys like Bernard Kerr and Ed Masters. Ed Masters, he won an EWS. I mean, the guy's legit. He knows how a bike needs to work, and he's riding in circumstances where a bike needs to work. It's what's funny to me is one of the complaints was the narrow handlebar. You know how hard it was to get Pivot to put a narrower handlebar on that bike?
How narrow are we talking?
It's a 760, which is what I run. Okay. Because when you're riding somewhere that's not wide open and there's a trail out here that was just built. Out at Haas. Rich, you and I haven't ridden it yet, but a few people I know who are very talented riders have had incidents on this trail because there's a section where you're coming fast and you have to make a right turn and then a left turn. And when you're coming in with speed, you have to lean the bike or you can't turn. That's the byproduct of speed is you have to have proper body position. You have to set it up. When you go into the first turn, your handlebar hits this rock on the inside of the corner, and then it sends you into a boulder on the outside of the next turn that you can't make because you just hit your handlebar on the rock. And so the trail builders, there were some complaints, and the trail builders went back and they basically took pictures of themselves sitting at the entrance to this section, and they couldn't understand where the problem was. Yeah. And the reason they couldn't understand is because they weren't going 25 miles an hour. That perspective only reveals itself if you're going fast. And that's one of those things where, if you have 800 handlebars, those extra millimeters, I mean, have you ever had a terrible pedal strike?
Yeah.
Well, that pedal strike might have only been created by 1 millimeter of interference, but that's all it takes to create a pedal strike.
No, that's a fact. I have more trouble with 175s. I normally run 170 cranks because I pedal strike like crazy on 175s.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't think 5 millimeters makes the difference, but 1 millimeter makes the difference.
Right.
When you hit something, you hit something.
I haven't listened to the podcast, but the most recent downtime podcast, I just saw Jesse Melamed was on there, and he's pumped because he ran the narrowest bars in Tweed in that last AWS. I think he was running 740s.
Yeah.
How tall is he? Do you know?
Oh, he's not tall. He's probably 5'7" or 5'8". But again, that's not all that dictates that. And what he's saying was, and I haven't thought much about this, but he said there was a time when wider bars gave the bike more stability. Now the bikes inherently have more stability, so you don't necessarily need bars as wide. Right. And then your body position comes into play, or your body type comes into play.
Well, but here's the thing. If you're used to riding 800s, it's going to feel awkward when you get on a bike that has narrower ones. And like in that test, if every other bike had 800s, which most of them come that way, and you've got to cut them down yourself.
Yep.
Jumping on something narrow is going to feel strange to you. But
have y'all seen
where you've got to give it time to either you adjust to it or you make an adjustment yourself. I mean, I guess they certainly could have put a wider bar on it, but I have a feeling that I'm not going to think it needs it.
Have y'all seen that video?
The best guys I know don't run.
Talks about bar width, and like it has a formula that you use in conjunction with your height. They presented it in a way that basically states that you employ more fast twitch muscles if your bars are too wide, and that there's a certain formula that spits out the perfect bar width. Y'all ever seen that video? I think Joy of Bike did it.
Of course they did.
Yeah, that.
I was just going to say, let me guess. If it's a formula, let me guess who did it.
Here's my problem,
it's interesting.
Jared.
I wanted to hear your input on that.
Yeah, but here's the problem, Jared. And Rob, please let me
tell
finish.
you an equation that works for everybody.
That's the problem, Jared. There's no one equation that works for everybody because that's all based on measurements. And the problem is you could have three of the exact same people. They could be triplets. And if one of them had a horrible crash that caused there's plates and the mobility isn't there, it doesn't make sense. Like there is no one hard and fast. That is just that's a very frustrating thing, dude. And I think the challenge now is that if you say that, like, dude, we could say go rub dog poo, go outside and rub dog poo on the underside of your seat, dude. You'll go faster.
Someone will do it. Someone will do it.
There's somebody that will do it.
I joked one time before that I was going to put my handlebars on upside down and go ride them. And you want to hear the funny, and this was a joke, but you want to hear the funniest part?
Go for it.
Somebody sent me a Lee Likes Bikes book, and in that book, he recommends that somebody turn their handlebars upside down, and I almost fell out of my chair.
Yeah, it's just, it's an interesting thing. And Rick, it's funny. Rick says roadies come out with formulas. When you're on a road bike, it's a little bit different because you're in a certain position for a long time. You're in that fixed position. So like people talk about fits on mountain bikes. I don't know what formula you're going to use to fit somebody on a mountain bike because people ride differently. Well, on a road bike, there's not very different riding styles.
That's a great segue, Rich, because what I'm getting ready to do, the experiment that I'm getting ready to do is I've got two identical bikes. One's a medium, one's a large. And I'm going to ride them both because I can ride a medium or a large. And the outcome of those rides is different on each bike. There's pluses and minuses depending on which way I go. And so I'm going to take the opportunity to really try to illustrate, the give and the take on either size. And so fits relative to the bike that you're on, I think.
So
and what your goals are.
Okay. So hang on. Let's I want to bring this up and then I'll bring that one back. Matt Hawking says, in defense of Joya Bike, they did say it was indicative and that the other test was holding a string up. Yeah, I agree. I didn't see that. And so I didn't know who Joy of Bike was. Somebody sent me a video and they were all fired up. That was the drop video where they put my picture up. And it wasn't horrible, but they said some things that weren't complimentary. They took me out of context. They twisted the words around. Oh yeah.
He misrepresented what we were saying. And then they basically said, when they said what they thought was the right thing to do, they pretty much said the same thing that we had said. So
ironic.
Yeah, it was very disappointing.
And again, dude, it's one of those things. And this is why you don't see Rob more on this platform. People do things on YouTube to be YouTubers. I like the wink thing. Yeah, that was me playing my role as a YouTuber just because I'm getting beaten down a little bit and I want to have a little bit more fun with it. But at the same time, it's one of those things where I'm not selling anything. Okay. The Ride Series clinics, dude, plenty of people come to them and you can come if you want. It doesn't matter. But certain people are selling things. And if you're selling something and that's how you're supporting yourself, what you're probably going to do is basically position everything you say to come back to that thing that you are selling. And the next one is, hang on, Rob, somebody said Lee likes narrow bars and small bikes. And the challenge I have with that is he then thinks everybody else should follow suit. And that's not true. I talk about my opinions and Rob talks about his opinions at the Ride Series. Then we remove our opinion and go with physics, gravity, and things that are facts and let people find out where they need to be. And I think that's a very important element here is what we're saying isn't the right way. It's a way, and it's a way we use in certain given situations. We'd love to see people try it, and they're not going to look exactly how we look, but maybe they're going to look close. Or maybe they're not going to at all because they don't want to do it that way. That's fine. But to say things are so black and white at times it's very challenging. And part of it is because things are changing. Like, again, with Lee's been around for a long time. I think a lot of Lee's things were great 15 years ago. Bikes have changed. You need to adapt. Rob?
I agree 100%. I mean, what worked 30 years ago is not the same now. It's not going to work with
30 years ago. What worked 5 years ago doesn't work now.
Absolutely. So it's funny because I've only been riding for 10 years. I started riding when I was 40. But looking back at the bikes that I rode then.
Aren't you 60? Has it been 20 years?
Oh my God.
That's funny. Those things are junk, dude. I would never ride them. I would never ride one of those. And it's funny because I see people getting all nostalgic about these old bikes. It's the same thing with moto. Got friends who are like all into these old motorcycles. But back when I raced professional motocross, I look back at those motorcycles. Those are garbage. I would never want to ride them. They're terrible. Dude, the bikes are so much better. Why would you ever want to ride an old piece of junk?
Because they're having fun.
Whatever, dude. They're risking their lives like we did back then. You didn't know any better.
The memories, dude.
Jeff Ireland, look at this.
Hey.
Coming in with the super sticker. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. I recognize Jeff's name, I think. I think he's been around for a while. Yeah, it's interesting because we talked a little bit about fit and I think people have input on fit, especially now. And I think some of it is challenging. Like, Rob, you'll appreciate this. I had a guy reach out because he wants a new turbo Levo. Okay. And he said, my shop's telling me an S4. And I'm thinking maybe an S3. You know, what do you have? And I said, dude, I have an S4. And I wish I had an S3. And he's my height. He's maybe a half inch taller. And I said, dude,
shops, it seems, and manufacturers tend to want to move people to the bigger size. And
so, dude, I told him he's in Florida. I said, dude, if you were in the mountains somewhere, maybe an S4 with a shorter stem, but Get an S3 and put a little bit longer stem on it. I said, the problem is you can't get enough weight to turn it. Dude, he went back to the shop and they gave him so much crap for it. He just told me, he's like, yeah, dude, I just don't want to buy it anymore.
That's fine.
And I was just so bummed out. It's just like, dude, why? How can a shop do that? At the end of the day, in that scenario, how can you not yield to what the customer wants?
Well, so I can understand it. Here's the thing. First of all, surely they think they know better, and you would expect that they should. And so maybe their feeling is, if this guy buys the size he's asking, he's going to be unhappy with the bike, and then he's going to blame it on us. And as a business owner, I've been there. I've had people come in and tell me the custom paint scheme they want, and I'm like, but you know, customer gets what they want, so you do it, and then you know what it's going to be like, and then they come and see it, and they're completely disappointed, and you're like, dude, I gave you exactly what you asked for.
Dude, let's be honest. There have been times where you told people, no, I'm not going to do that.
No, now, but I didn't used to be that way. Yeah, now I refuse because I've been through it too many times to go that way with them. I just can't do it.
Right.
So this is a good one, Jeff. Good segue here into stem length and handling. Go for it, Rob. I mean, it's fairly simple.
So
I love when he does this, Jared. I love when he's like, he's
It's
in
like
there.
he's
Like
got
the hamster's starting to go, but it's got arthritis.
I want to be very concise about what I say. I want to try not to be confusing. So this comes back to size. And my experience is, if you go to a bigger bike, your mass has less influence on that bike. And so that's a safer, more conservative approach. If you're worried that you're going to get yourself in trouble by putting your body in the wrong place, or if you just don't have situational awareness of your mass, then the safe bet is go to the bigger bike. But if you want to be able to maneuver the bike, a smaller bike you can have more influence over. And for me, why I like it is because I can make the bike do things with a lot less of my body input to get a good result. Like a double up's a perfect example. To get the bike into a nose heavy attitude and hold the rear up, for me, the shorter bike is better because it comes with a shorter wheelbase, which is more manageable. And for me, you know, in a situation where you're running carbon wheels and tires are expensive, I don't want to be hacking tires and breaking wheels. It's not a good way to go.
So then how about this? Are there absolutes, in a sense, when it comes to stem length? And I'll bring in a caveat, taking into account head tube angle.
Well, as bikes get slacker, and there's no sign that they're going to stop being slacker, they're not going to suddenly get steeper.
No.
For
Did you
me,
just tell me there was something that's a 62.5, a Spire?
Yeah, Transition's got a 62.5 bike.
Yeah. So for me, you know, like we say in the ride series, the front wheel is the wheel of influence. It's only the wheel of influence if you put influence on it. You need to have weight on that wheel so that when you try to navigate, the thing can bite into the ground and do what you ask it to do. And so if the thing is a chopper and you've got a super short stem and there's no weight on the front wheel, when you try to make a steering input, it's going to laugh at you. It's just going to push. It's going to wash out.
Yeah, it's just going to wash.
And so for me, that's reason enough. I don't go to a smaller bike because of the reach. I go to a smaller bike so that I can put a longer stem on and get some weight on the front wheel. Mm-hmm. You know, and usually it's that combined with an angle set.
Well, and spacers too, because the original question had spacers in it. And
okay, so my advice on spacers, if you don't have enough weight on your front wheel, if you lower the stack, that's going to shift your body forward without you choosing to be there. And that subsequently is going to put more weight on the front wheel. You know, I've had bikes that had I like to run basically no stack. And so I've had bikes where with no stack, it feels like my weight's too far forward. The Z road is that way. So I put a 35 rise handlebar on it, and that put me where I needed to be.
So
now,
Brian,
I could have stacked it to there, but the problem with stack is it's moving toward you at the angle of the fork.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not going straight up, it's moving back. And if you don't want it, if you don't want to close it in on you, you need to drop the stack and put a longer stem.
That's
our handlebars.
We're in that zone that Ted talked about right now. It's just that the information is coming fast and furious. Brian has a great point. I wouldn't pick a bike based on the size label, test ride it first. And he tends to use reach to pick the size. Now, we just talked about this. The challenge currently, we're in a time that we've never been in. And you just don't have the opportunity to test ride a bike.
So let me touch on something real quick.
Especially with direct-to-consumer brands.
This is, if I have 7 bikes in my garage right now, and they're all different sizes.
Hashtag humble brag.
I just want to make this point. The fundamental measurement I use to feel comfortable on the bike, with the saddle up, I measure from the tip of the seat to the center of the handlebars, and it should be approximately 20 inches. If it's approximately 20 inches, then no matter what bike I get on, they all feel similar to me when I'm riding them. Now, if it's a large bike with a short stem, navigating is going to be different because I don't have as much influence on the front wheel. So most of the time I prefer a shorter bike, but I've been experimenting because bikes like the Evo, when I rode it in a S3, I loved it. I thought it was fantastic, but all the literature I read says I should be on an S4, and I've not had a chance to ride an S4. But
I rode an S4, and it was way too big. It was way too big.
Yeah. So with the propane, it was the same way. The medium, it felt amazing to me. I had a blast on it, and all their information.
So okay. Oh man, this is coming fast here. Andrew says it depends on what you want, and maybe let's keep this in perspective here. If you could pick one component of geometry to use for picking a bike, what would it be?
One component.
Not like one measurement. Sorry, one measurement. Would it be reach?
Are you asking all parties? Because for me, it's reach.
Okay, Rob. I mean, you'd want 2, I would think. You'd want reach in this other one. But, dude, I'll tell you.
C-tube angle right now seems pretty relevant to me because so it used to be bike manufacturers had the C-tube angle almost parallel to the head tube angle so that as a taller rider, if a taller rider is going to get on the same bike, you know he's going to raise the saddle. And when the seat tube's laid back, that opens the cockpit as the seat goes up. Well, now with droppers, because you can ride the bike through the whole dropper range, more vertical seat tubes allow your reach to stay consistent with the seat down or the seat up. So what about wheelbase? Yeah, that's probably the single thing that I pay close attention to, because I ride, you have to navigate, you have to maneuver. And if the bike gets too long, it gets very difficult, near impossible sometimes. Like the Enduro. The Enduro is a prime example, dude. They're all pretty important, but I think that's, and I love this one. Casey says, the stem conversation's confusing me. How are you weighting the front wheel while keeping heavy feet and light hands? Your torso's forward. Your torso's weight. If you picture yourself on the bike. Let me see if I can visualize this. Okay, hang on. I'm going to try to. Okay, how do I do screen share? No, like I made myself bigger. I want to make Rob big. How do I do that? Well, I'll try to move myself back. There you go. There we go. You have the floor, Rob. All right. So if you picture yourself on top of the bike like an A, so the legs of that A, you got your feet, and then you got your hands. And so depending on how you move that, you can bias the weight to your feet or your hands. And so if you lengthen the stem, then you can pull yourself toward the front and put more weight on the front. If you shorten the stem, you pull yourself toward the back, put more weight on your feet. And you can move your torso to alter that, but in your comfortable resting position, like standing, riding on the trail, you want to make sure you have enough weight on your hands so that the front wheel has some command and you can navigate.
Is that me, Jared? Do you know? Or
Oh,
is
that's
it
my
Rob?
watch. That's my watch on my computer. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't me. It's okay. That's fine. We get through that.
All good. That was a good explanation, though. Well put.
Thank
you. And the other thing too, Casey, is you got to understand heavy and light are relative terms. Like there will be times where your hands are somewhat heavy because you're charging into something. We see people with heavy hands coming through turns at slower speeds, and the front is very twitchy, and that's a challenge. What we want to do is, by dropping the stem height down or shortening or lengthening, we can position the torso a little bit more to where we want it.
Well, and the other thing to keep in mind is this is what we're talking about is super subtle. This is all very nuanced stuff. Like a 10 millimeter adjustment seems like nothing. And the average person might not even notice it. But when you're on the threshold of control, when you're pushing the limits, those nuanced changes are the things that make the difference between success and failure.
Yeah, and I mean, 15 millimeters sometimes is a difference between a medium and a large. Like a reach on a medium could be 465, whereas a large would be 480. So I would say changing your stem 10 millimeters could be a big deal.
Yeah, so in that reach, what you also have is the ability to slide the seat in the tracks. So you're talking about an inch forward or back, you can gain or lose if you need it. And then, I mean, a 30 mil swing on the stem is not unreasonable. I mean, that's a huge adjustment, but that's the range you have to fit in between a large and a small as far as cockpit reach goes. If that's, if you wind up with the one that's not the one you wanted, that's how you can make it work. Yeah,
and that's definitely a possibility nowadays. Yeah, it's a hard thing. Like Chris says, he wishes there was a good guide to fitting. I don't know. I think a lot of personal preference comes into play, and it's a very, very nuanced thing. And I think with every new bike, that nuance changes.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like it's not. I'm a prime example. Like somebody asked, "How tall are you, Rob?" You're 5'11".
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm 5'10". You could take 5 people who are 5'10", clone me 5 over physically, not mentally, and at all different backgrounds. They'd want 5 different bikes potentially.
Right.
A lot of it has to do with who you are.
Sometimes I think the better approach is just get a bike and then ride it. And from there, you can figure out what changes to make to optimize it. But
yeah,
even if it's not the best, once you're accustomed to it, once you're acclimated to it, you can get the job done. And so the question becomes, what are you trying to do? What are your goals? And is the absolute ultimate optimum what you need? Because in most circumstances, I think there's something that could be changed on every bike that might make it better.
Yeah. Well, and Jeff has a good one here. He's coming strong. Jeff, like I'm seeing him all over. And he says he'll be on Somo tomorrow at 5 p.m. You might run into Jeff's the middle-aged masher. You might run into the old-aged masher. That's Rob Drew.
Oh, man.
Thoughts on roll and rise and weight and hurting hands. If you have injuries, you have to deal with those injuries. Riding bike is supposed to be fun, and you should be comfortable.
So on the hands, I have a recommendation. It's 2 extra strength Tylenol before you head out on your ride. Works like a champ for me. Just make sure you've eaten something.
We are not doctors, and we do not disseminate medical advice on this show.
I'm just telling you it works for me.
I know some people say grip diameter can help out a lot with that.
I don't disagree. And what I liked, a lot of people hated them, but what I liked was the padlock grips.
I love
the little mushy end.
They were pivots.
What grips are those?
Actually, they were private labeled for Pivot, but they were made by
ODI.
No, MR. No, not. God, what's the company? I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on it.
WTB.
WTB.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they still make them, so you can still get them.
Yeah, they're cool. They had a like a chamfered edge on the inside, or the bar was chamfered.
Yeah, you have to cut a 45-degree angle off the end of the bar, and then the end of the grip on the inside matched that angle, and it would lock the bar so they couldn't turn. And that piece was just a gooey rubber piece on the end. It was really comfortable. I have a set of them outside. But little tip that I learned. This is very interesting. So I always cut my bars down to 760. Well, when you use those bars, it adds a half inch of length.
Right.
So you end up at about 820. It was funny. I cut all my when I got away from those grips, I cut all my bars down to 760, and suddenly everything felt narrow. And I was like,
bet.
what the heck is going on? But that actually has turned out to be better. So
yeah.
Right.
Andrew wants to know where to find a spur. I don't know, dude. You can check. Since
Thunder Mountain Bikes.
Thunder Mountain Bikes has them?
Thunder Mountain Bikes in Sedona. Last time I checked, they had a frame sitting up there for me. Unfortunately, there were no deals to be had, so it was a little rich for my blood. I wasn't in a financial position to buy.
So, Andrew, if you're just looking to ride one, when you're in Bentonville for Outer Bike, you let me know, dude, because I still have Transition Spur that they sent me over a year ago, and I ride it almost every day. Except I didn't plan on riding it today. I'm going to show you this, guys. My heart is broken, but I'm a professional, so I've worked through it. See that right there? Expected delay.
Oh, man.
You believe that, dude?
Delays, of course.
My new bike was supposed to arrive today, and I've been waiting for it. I've been excited for a long time. I've been waiting for it for a long time. It's my bike. Can you reveal
this bike or no?
There's only 75 people. I'll reveal it. It's my bike. It's not a demo. I own this bike. That's how much I've wanted to buy this bike. I've never ridden one, and I'm that excited about it. Any of you, don't guess, Rob. You know what it is. Jared, did I told you what it is?
No, you haven't told me what it is.
What do you think it is?
Shoot. I mean, you kind of have a mixed bag over there. Is it your Transition Spur?
Oh, I like that. No, I don't need to. They won't take theirs back, so I basically have one.
Lucky. I tried to reach out to Transition. I want to get a bike of theirs over here, but I haven't had much luck.
No, I've had this one in the works for a long time because they didn't have any for a long time. So, Chris says Canyon, Nolly. Dude, I would love to get a Django. They're not available. Not a Forbidden.
Yeah,
I can't believe it. Nobody's picking up on this. It's a downcountry trailish bike. Okay, I'm going to give you a hint.
Oh,
this isn't the model. It's a great bike, and they used a guy to do an ad for them, and it worked very well. Yes, it's an Izzo. Okay. Yeah, I thought so.
What a cowbell.
I mean, my friend Jeff C., I'll be meeting him at some point, but for now, it's the Izzo.
Sick. That's a cool bike, man. I see a few of them at the trails down here. What spec level did you go with?
Core 4. Come on. Well, they don't have race anymore, so essentially race Core 4.
Cool.
So the cool one.
It's got factory suspension, all that.
It does. I wanted the Blaze to get the RockShox setup, but they did not have one of those. So I went Core 4, and I'll ride it. I'm going to ride it in Core 4 trim for probably a month, just because I want to put it through the paces. I want to get some content. But Rob and I have talked about some changes that we're going to make to it. And
Industry 9 wheels.
I already have the wheels, but we're going to do some suspension things that.
And I have a medium, so Rich is getting a large. I have a medium, so we'll get to experiment.
We'll have to do some sort of downcountry back to back.
Well, we're working on that too. This is great. If you don't talk me out of it, I'm all about the Fox 38. Reason for Zeb over Fox, dude. Straight up, you're either way in experience. Fox 38 is rad.
Yeah, 38's great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm a staunch.
they're both fantastic. So I'd say if you can get one and you can't get the other, or you get a better deal on one than the other, that would be. I think the Zeb is typically a better value price wise. I think the Fox is more expensive, but if you can get a good deal on it, yeah, I'd get it. It's great.
They're both awesome. And I know I especially have been, I guess, somewhat critical of Fox just based on my experience. I definitely love RockShox, but dude, the 38's rad. And all the newest Fox stuff is getting much better. Like with the Izzo, I'm excited to ride the newest 34 because I've heard the newest 34 is awesome. My biggest complaint with the 34 is the deflection in it, just because the crown, it's not enough to handle my bagel thunder. So now apparently it's much stiffer, and so I'm excited to try and see.
Yeah, the 34 got that crown revision, or the bridge revision, right? Like between the limbs, it's like circular.
Yeah, the crown and the bridge are different. Yeah,
I've got a Marzocchi bomber on mine.
Oh yeah, there you go. And yeah,
Z2
Matt, I'm gonna do a comparison video of the Izzo and the Spur. We're talking, and again, you know, I'm not saying anything I can't say. We're trying to do, you know, for lack of a better term, a shootout on these downcountry bikes. So we're slowly compiling enough of them. It's just a matter of getting us together to shoot it. And it's because we feel that we're both pretty decent riders, and Rob is very, very technical. And I think he and I talking about these bikes will, I think, highlight some things about them that make sense. And we're not going into it to say this is way better than this one. It's what resonates with us and why. And I think that's what's the most important thing. It's not to say this bike's horrible except on rollers. That's just foolish, man. Like I can't. It's so absurd. I can't even deal with it, dude. Like I won't watch it. Like Rob, we had this conversation, Jared. Rob's like, "Did you see it?" And I said, "No, I did not see it."
You should watch it. It's interesting to watch.
So, and this again, we're going to wrap this up fairly soon because we're going to keep going. Jeff says he likes DVO. Jeff, what I can tell you is I've ridden one bike with DVO, and that was the original Fazzari I got. Dude, it was great. I loved it. I can tell you without a doubt, I only liked it because it wasn't green. It was black. I would not ride the green stuff. Like all those people who said, dude, I would not ride. The truss may work great, but I'm not going to ride it because it's ugly. Dude, I have no interest in riding that green stuff. Mm-mm.
Well, if you were sponsored by him, you'd have to. From what I understand, you have to run the green fork.
It makes sense.
That is true. I think that is true.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Jared, let's be honest, dude. If that was the case, then I probably would ride it.
So would I.
If I'm having to make a choice. Come on. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the green.
Their forks are cool. They implement some technology I don't see in other brands. Like they have an off-the-top switch that supposedly makes it more supple at the beginning of the stroke, which is pretty neat.
It does.
It's got something similar too.
You what?
Who's that?
MRP's got something similar to that.
Yeah, they have a ramp control cartridge, so it's a similar sort of thing, and it works.
Yes,
it works, dude. It works. It makes a difference, and what's cool about it is it allows you those on-the-fly adjustments. So, like here, when I go on a typical ride, I'm seeing so many different types of terrain that the ability to basically add and remove volume spacers, in a sense, is pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So. Andy Lai says, I hear riding eggplant is fast. Oh, man. That pedal, Andy pedal. We have the long-term review of the Delano Peak coming out soon, and Andy sent me the rough cut today.
How rough is it?
Oh, dude, it's so good. Like, I'm jacked to the tits.
Jacked to the tits.
It's good, dude. Like we shot at Breckenridge, so just the montage of riding shots, and then where we shot the closing, people are going to have a hard time paying attention to what I'm saying because they're just going to want to look at what's behind me.
Indeed.
Yeah, some of the stuff you were showing me that he's been filming is pretty immense, dude. Beautiful shots.
Harvey Coy, have you heard of a Cascade upgrade for Lincoln suspension, Rob?
Have we heard of it?
So,
I've not heard of that.
dude, literally earlier, and it might have been Jeff. It might have been the middle-aged Maxer said, "Can we get Rob's thoughts on the C-Link for the Specialized Lebo SL?" We're not going to do that, guys. An hour, 9 minutes, and 40 seconds. This has been a good run, I think. Are we happy with this, Jared? You're the moderator here. Tell us what's your take. Wrap it up.
I think it's been effective. I think it's been good. We're answering a lot of questions. There's 74 people in here right now, which is amazing. So I mean, I'm down to stick around for a little longer if y'all are.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we
Your
don't
call.
need to. No, I know where you're going, dude. Yeah, what you're saying is let's stay. Tony's asking what pedals do I use? Oh, and hang on. Harvey also said my wife got a pic with you for my birthday. Heck yeah, that's awesome. If it was recent, happy birthday. It's funny, Rob and I have talked about this, Jared, and I may have said it to you, but it's because of YouTube mostly, I'm in a position where around here, if I go ride, there's people that ask to take a picture. Yep. And it's funny because so many of them, the way they approach it is like, man, can I bother you for a picture? And I just laugh and tell them, you seriously? Do you really think it bothers me for you to ask me to take a picture? It's cooler for me than it is for you. It's awesome. And it's a cool thing. So I'm glad you could get that picture. Pedals. Somebody said, what pedals am I using? I'm using HTs. So HT T1s, and I dig them. I think they're great. They're great pedals. I had that one break yesterday, but that's the exception, not the rule. Right. And this one's good. So if people can give me some input on this. Is YT known for good warranty or service? Some of the direct brands aren't so good. I do not know. I have zero experience, and I'm about to find out. Because like I said, this is my bike.
About every brand, so I don't know.
Well, and again, I've heard some of that too, but I don't know if I've necessarily dug deeper, but like Fazzari is a prime example. I'm very close with Fazzari as a brand, and I keep tabs on the Facebook groups, the chat rooms, all these things, just because as a group, they've reached out to me to ask more than anybody else has. And so I appreciate the position there. And a lot of people are frustrated about not getting their bikes. And the supply chain has nothing to do with Fazzari. That's not their issue. And so for people to take aim at Fazzari or any other direct-to-consumer brand when they can't get the things people need, that, in my opinion, isn't right. Things are going to happen. Bikes are going to break. Parts are going to break. And some of these companies, they make very little. Like very little is theirs. So if something breaks and it's a part they get from somebody else, it's not necessarily their fault. And then
even what they make, like it's typically the frame. They don't actually make it. It's made somewhere else. And so it's got to be shipped. They've got to get it.
Yep.
Yeah. See, so
I was reading a story today about the fact that it says that the United States supply chain is broken because of things that individual companies have chosen to do to protect themselves and their technology. It's not a system that works together like a wheel with a hub and spokes. It's every man for himself, and now there's no cooperation, and one hand doesn't know what the other hand's doing.
Right.
So there's ships at sea that can't dock. There's docks that are overloaded. There's trucks that are waiting. Everything is jacked. Miles and 20 plus miles of trains backed up. It's crazy. And they're saying that it's probably not going to clear up till deep into 22.
Right.
That's discouraging because all along people are like, buy. Everybody's on the internet, buy.
Right. Exactly. That's why I tell most people just to try to find a bike that you have faith in, that you won't have to call.
You can buy right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Somebody's talking about DMing about Haas or something. So I saw this earlier. I don't know what the best way to do. I would say Instagram. So Brian, if you're you're trying to DM Jeff. I don't know about that one. I was thinking, dude, I got to tell you this story. I did a clinic in Kansas, and there's this group, this couple, and I can't remember their name right now. They're awesome, like super cool people. At the end, they're like, "Hey, can we get a picture in front of the trailer?" And I'm like, "Yeah," so I go to walk over, like they're gonna take a picture with me, and she's like, "No, take the picture of us."
That's funny. I love it.
The stardom got to you, man.
Oh, dude. Well, it was just one of those awkward moments. Dude.
No,
It
that's
was so
funny.
Rob, are you going to be at HozFest 2022?
I'm in negotiations currently for HozFest 2022.
Okay. So you're hoping to be there?
I'm hoping to be there.
What is HozFest?
There's a trail system called Hoz out here in Mesa, Arizona, and
Okay.
some of the people who support that network started a thing called Hozaholics. It's a Facebook page, but it's a great group of people, very supportive. They're awesome, and every year they'll do a festival called the Hoz Fest, and a bunch of people come out. There's great food, vendors come out. It gets bigger every year. There's a lot of games and fun events on the bike, and then group rides and shuttles, and it's a pretty awesome event. But this, with COVID, it got pushed back and tweaked out, and like everything else. And so it's just kind of now it's up in the air, and some of the dates that were initially picked conflicted with other events that were happening, and it's just been a challenge to get it to get it locked down. But they've got the date locked down, and now it's just a matter of getting my ducks in a row, making sure that I don't have any conflicts and I can be there.
Cool.
I'm getting your next question, Rob. There's a spelling that's bad, so don't. And it's not die-cuss, it's disgust.
I am ready to discuss.
Because I'm looking at it on the gram.
Yeah, we kind of touched on it, but basically, so as I said before, I had the propane in a medium, and I was able to get the propane in a large. And there's obviously some significant difference from bike. It's the same bike, but just when you make it bigger, it completely changes the manners of the bike, how it works, how it reacts to your inputs, and how much effort you have to put into making the bike do what you want it to do. And so there's a section on the East Loop here at the east end of South Mountain. It's about a 30-second down called Orbea Tough Shed. And it's nothing special, but I really enjoy it. It's very fun, and I like to go through it pretty fast, and I've created a cool little rhythm. And when you do it and you hit your marks, everything happens fast. And so I went through and tried to hit it about a week ago on the large propane, and I literally went off the trail. There's a left turn. I couldn't make it. I went off the trail through the rocks. It was pretty scary. And then I was, this past weekend, I was riding with a client, and I wanted to show him that section to work on double up timing. And so he asked, could he film me riding through it? And so I said, sure. And so I went to do it. And the first time I did it, I made it through, but it just wasn't tight. I wasn't on my marks. And so I went back up and tried to do it again and come in faster. And once again, I got out of position and ended up going off the side of the trail. So the revelation I came to was that is the wrong tool for the job. That section of trail, because of the frequency of the obstacles and the speed, there just isn't enough time to make the big bike maneuver the way that I need it to. And so to confirm my analysis, I jumped back on the S3 stump jumper and went back to the same place. And sure enough, it worked exactly like it should. I got through it clean and tight and on my marks. And yeah, so the problem is, depending on what you're trying to do, sometimes the bigger configuration is just not going to work, whether it's travel or whether it's wheelbase or length. The bigger the bike is, the more time it takes to command it to do what you want it to do. And if your speed and the timing of the obstacles doesn't coincide with that, then you either have to take a different tack on the trail and just, not do it the way you were trying to do it, or you've got to, go back and get a smaller bike.
That's sometimes hard for people to think about.
Well, it was upsetting for me because I wanted to be able to master it on the propane, and it just was not working for me. I was trying really hard, and it just wasn't working, to the point that it was getting kind of dangerous. And, the bike has all the travel to just steamroll through the obstacles. It doesn't care, but I wanted to do it the way that I had been doing it. And the problem is I'd been doing it on smaller bikes.
Was this section of trail loaded with like switchbacks and stuff like that? Is that what made it complex?
Not really, but it has some turns that aren't super sharp, but when you're going fast, they come
You're
fast.
going fast.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I understand.
There's some very subtle obstacles in the trail that I was able to create double ups out of. And you have to you got to pull and you got to reach for them. And when you catch them right, that load allows you to make the directional change. And it's a really fun series of events. You'd have to see it to appreciate what I'm talking about. And I intended to film it with the drone so that you have that perspective. I probably will still do that. But it's a fun section of trail that I enjoy riding.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'd like to see that on video if you do capture it.
Yeah.
We got to answer an important question. Harvey wants to know when the next ride series is in Texas. DFW is December 11th and 12th, and then Houston, December 18th and 19th. So if you'd like to find those dates, you can go to the rideseriesmtb.com. Click the link for upcoming events. I do indeed. Click the link for upcoming events. That'll redirect you to the Bike Reg page, where all of the dates and information is included. If you have further questions, don't hesitate to send an email to the staff, info@therideseriesmtb.com.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, dude. I'm getting it ready. I'm trying to get my announcer voice ready for next week.
Yes.
When I'll be in the announcer booth, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the mountain bike capital of the world. It's the Epic Rides Oz Trails Off-Road, brought to you by Yucatec Hot Sauce.
Amazing.
And the all-new Ford Bronco. Now's your chance to hop in and drive the Bronco.
Like John
Bronco.
But
drive it like John Bronco.
You can't be John Bronco without a Bronco.
Would love a ride series in northern Utah. How about southern Utah? Because it just so happens the ride series will make its debut in the Sunshine State, gorgeous of Utah. I know it's not the Sunshine State. We'll be in St. George, the Jeezy, if you will, December 4th and 5th. We'd love to see you out there, Michael, and Mutt Squatch 25. All the Mutt Squatches, the whole family, we'd love to see them out. Yeah, Middle Aged Master says, great live stream. Let's just revel in this for a minute, guys. Want to put this up? Okay. So there you go. Jared's smiling. Jared's got a little smile. Rob shaking his head. Great live stream. I think it was pretty good.
Yeah.
I like these.
It's always
We're an hour 22 in, and we got 7.
I'm hungry because I missed my dinner, but it's good. It was worth it.
Well, so, Rob, I don't know. When I do this, do you see it on your side? Ready? Boom. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, since you. Okay, so check this out, dude. This is what's great, dude. When we go back to something like this, or I go to this, that's your cue to zip it. Zip. So seriously, as we're doing it, I thought, oh, wait a minute, like this is cool. I can, because dude, when you do an explanation, I have to do this because you get very handsy. And so I want you to be able to move your hands all around. But then when it's time for you to be done, I'm going to do this because I then the floor.
Yeah, we needed the full screen for the A frame for sure.
Can't you mute me too?
I'm sure I can. I can go. I can do a lot. I think I'm much better this time than I was.
I hope so, Chris Tame.
Okay,
so I still don't know.
72 people are about to
find out where Peace Out Dumpers came from.
They're about to be very disappointed.
Well, I'm curious. I've been wanting to know for a while.
Okay, it very simple. Ready? Here we go. So, 2019, the currently dormant YARD program, Young Aspiring Rider Development, was in place. And we had 2 young riders and their families, rad group of people. We were out traveling around. We all got pretty close. And at one point, we were doing something, and I said, peace out to somebody. And my son Dex was there. He was 2.5 at the time. And he's like, oh, yeah, peace out. And he loved it. Well, then he just decided to add things onto peace out. So like, peace out, dog. Peace out, car. And we were somewhere, and he had a sucker. And he's like, he looked at this group of people and said, peace out, sucker. And these people kind of looked like, did he just call us suckers? Like, peace out, sucker? Like, no, sucker. Peace out, my sucker. Well, we were all hanging out in the backyard, and he was sitting there playing with some toys. Those toys happened to be dump trucks. Well, we had to leave, and I said, let's go, Dex. And he hopped up and he looked back, and he said, peace out, dumpers.
Nice.
That was it.
So there little man wrote it. He composed it.
So here's how it came to be. Here's how it came to be. We were filming. As a matter of fact, we were filming a follow-up drop video, which I was already in a negative mindset to begin with. But we were filming the closing, and most of the stuff we do is just one take and done. It's over. Well, something happened, and I didn't think the closing was going to work. So I jokingly said, peace out, dumpers. And I told Brock, all right, let's shoot it again. And we shot it again. Well, Brock edits the video, and I get the video, and I watch the video. And at the end, it's me saying, peace out, dumpers. And I'm like, dude, you can't, like, we can't use that. That doesn't, he goes, no, man, it's going to be a thing. Let's do it. I said, whatever, bro. I'm going to do it just so you see. I'm going to do it just so you see it's not a thing. And there you go, dude. Chris,
it's definitely a thing. Now when I go for a walk around the block with my wife, she has peace out dumpers on the back of her t-shirt.
So, dude, listen, though. It's funny, and I joked about trying to get away from it. Very few people say peace out dumpers to me. And if they did, I would get it. But I can't tell you how many people are like, are you ready? Yeah. And I literally, dude, I'm like, ready for what? They're like, no, dude, are you ready? And I'm like, oh, dude, it takes me a second because I never get it when they say it, dude. Yeah, it's just, yeah, I feel like a joker. So, that's all right, hilarious. now we got to be done. I gotta go to sleep, man. It's getting late.
Yeah,
1:26. This is good. I'm fired up. Thank you guys. I appreciate it, Jared. I appreciate it. I know it's a lot of time, dude, but I don't know, man.
I just same without you, buddy.
Dude, I dig how you moderate it. It's just, you have this calming voice of reason, and it's good for you to kind of be the conduit between him and I, because he'll get fired up at times, I'll get fired up at times, and I think you're good about pushing it a little bit when it needs to, but then reeling it back in when it needs to. So we'll try to keep it going. For all 69 people still here, thank you. Appreciate everybody tuning in, and send the questions any one of the platforms. Like, we'll stream on this, but reach out on Instagram if you have a question and say, hey, for the next live feed, I'd love to know this. You send it to me, you send it to Rob, you can send it to Jared, Cure Cycling. Yep. I'd love to have a list that we can go through and answer those questions, because it's fun, and Rob's a wealth of information. We can add in a little bit of color. Yeah, so that's all I have. Rob, anything to close with?
I got nothing else. I think I'm an empty vessel at this point.
Empty vessel. Jared, what do you have to say, man?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'll just plug myself here. If you're not familiar with me, you can find me at Cure Cycling on YouTube, or on Instagram. It's at Cure_cycling. You can kind of learn more about who I am and what it is I do.
Whoa, Casey coming in with a $10 super chat.
Hey, put him on the screen.
Content. Casey, you are now on the screen. Casey, I appreciate that. Jared, it's funny. Jared and I have talked about this. For everybody watching, Jared's a student of all things YouTube, and he works very hard at it. And
so.
he's informed me that I'm not the greatest behind the scenes at YouTube, which I know, and he's trying to help. So one of the things, these are great, to be able to have, Casey, Brock did it, Jeff did it. This is cool because all of this is going to go back into more content. So of the 63 people out there watching, any of these things that pop up, it all goes back into content. So I'm okay saying the ride series is what supports my family, and I really like doing this. And
super chat support content.
Well, and again too, for everybody, Brock and Andy make the videos. I don't make the videos. I produce, I direct.
I don't make the buddies. I erase the buddies.
I erase the buddies. And obviously star in the videos, but those dudes shoot them and those dudes edit them, and they're not cheap, but I think they're worth the money. Whoa, wait a minute. Hold the phones, because Harvey Coy is coming in with a $20.
Oh, man. Yeah,
there it is. Woo! I love it.
Got to break up my super chat horn for that one.
So now, Jared, if you could just help me figure out, how do I get this? Like, I don't even know where this money goes.
It's going to be in your AdSense account.
All right. Things I'm going to learn. Awesome.
Jared, when can I schedule my YouTube tutorial? I need some help.
You can text me anytime. Rich will hit me up
any
time of the day. I'm always up.
But dude, we're just going to have to literally fly to Phoenix and fix him, dude. That's it. There's no other way. All right, I'm getting the high sign. We got to end it, dude. This was rad, guys. We'll do it again soon, and we will let the world know. There's only one thing left to say, folks.
And now we all know what it means.
Is peace out, dumpers.
Over and out.
Later. I'm assuming he ended it. No. He didn't end it.